Hey everybody, thanks for joining us tonight. We've got Goody and Johnny Mo at the movies here with your hosts, Johnny Mo of course, and I'm Goody. We are going to be doing episode 26 for you tonight, and in this episode we are going to be reviewing Rambo Last Blood. We just saw it this past weekend, and we are going to tell you all about our thoughts on it. But before we do that, our traditional beer of the night.
What are you drinking?
This is Blue Point's Delayed Pilsner.
Yeah, I saw that. What is that? I've never seen that. Is that brand new?
This is something that's more recent. I think I saw this over the summer. It's they've since Blue Point's gotten much bigger. They've started to develop a lot more cans, different styles of cans.
It was in a can. Yeah.
Yeah, and this one here definitely a little
hoppy.
A little hoppy for a pilsner, but overall pretty good. It's nice and strong, 5.8%. I'll take it. You?
All right. I am drinking Beck's straight out of the very large 22-ounce bottle. So one of Germany's finest.
And with that, cheers to number 26.
All right. Quick shout out to friends of Goody and Johnny Mo at the movies. Not that they would be watching it anytime soon, but I want to give a quick shout out to my cats, Mr. Blue and Oliver, who have no idea what's going on, but that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't take away from it. Love those guys.
Yes, he does. So Rambo. Stallone's coming back and doing one final...
Last Blood.
Well, you would hope the title says it all, that it is the final Rambo.
Yeah, I would say it absolutely has to be.
Real quick, there will be spoilers in this. If you guys have not seen our show before or have not listened to us before on our podcast, we do spoilers every single review. So I'm just giving you the heads up now.
We're going to ruin it for you. So don't ruin it. Don't ruin it for yourself. Watch the movie. Go see the movie first.
Then come back and then give us a listen.
I was actually very interested in the box office on this film because I think me and you kind of predicted it was going to do about 50 million.
I said like 40 something, yeah.
Well, it got trounced by Downton Abbey.
No.
And it made like 19.1 million.
Wow, we were way off.
Which is really a pretty bad opening.
I mean, Stallone comes out with this film
for a franchise.
You think
film?
But you know what though? But it's an older franchise. He's catering to the older audience that has grown up with those films. Because you think about it, the young kids nowadays, they don't know who Rambo is.
Yeah,
and Rambo at this point is 70 years old. So it's not. Stallone is 73 years old.
Right, and he looks it. He looks grizzled and chiseled.
You know, it's not like when the last Rambo came out about 10 years ago, I think.
Yeah, and even that was like it had been a while since the previous one.
I mean, Rambo 3 was what, 90? 91? Like really 90s. Early 90s?
Because First Blood was, I think, 82.
Okay.
And then I think
then Part 2.
Rambo 2.
First Blood Part 2.
Yeah, was like, that was also in like the mid 80s, I think. You know, and then when you started getting into the late 80s, early 90s, that's when I think when you finally had Rambo 3.
So it had definitely been a while, but that movie I actually thought Stallone, he looked good. He looked like really big and buff, and I know at one point, I'm pretty sure he got
in the fourth
installment, yeah, and I'm pretty sure he got caught doing HGH at one point, because that's when he was doing. Not only did he do Rambo, but he also did the Rocky Balboa movie, the final Rocky film.
Yeah, just want to talk a little bit about the franchise kings. I think hands down, the number one franchise king has got to be Harrison Ford. You know, he's got Star Wars and Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yeah. So I think he wins the contest. Then there's only a small handful of people who are actually in more than one franchise. I think, the next person down the line is Sylvester Stallone with Rocky and First Blood. Even though, I don't know that I would consider First Blood to be a powerhouse franchise. The fact is that it is a franchise.
Yep.
And I was hard pressed to come up with even more people who are in more than one franchise. And then
you're forgetting a big actor.
The other person I came up with, I think, was Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Schwarzenegger,
for
yeah.
Terminator, and believe it or not, Conan. There were three. He
films.
was in that. He was in 3 movies as Conan.
Well, you could say he was also in the Predator franchise because he was in the first Predator film.
Yeah, but he didn't reprise.
He
never
reprised
reprised his
the
role.
role.
Yeah, you got to be in more than one.
You are forgetting one big person.
Who's the big one? I'm obviously forgetting a huge one.
Believe it or not, Samuel L. Jackson. Samuel L. Jackson for Nick Fury for all the Marvel.
All right,
films
I'm not counting the Marvels.
But that is a franchise.
Yeah, it is, but it's like, okay, yeah.
Between that and Star Wars that he was in.
Yeah, okay, and then also technically he's in the Unbreakable franchise.
Yes.
A little bit. But I think the Marvel Universe movies kind of all string together. I think when you think of just these sequels where it's like this movie 1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, it's not a universe. It's it's just one character.
Yeah. So Sylvester Stallone, starting out with his Rocky movies in the late '70s, and then mid to late '70s, and then the Rambo movies in the '80s. I gotta give him credit, and it's at the end of the day, the studio is gonna try and. They're gonna try and go to the well one more time, and I think this is the last time at the well.
But for people that don't know about Stallone, he was one of the biggest action stars of the '70s,
late '70s,
'80s, and even into the '90s. He had done multiple action films.
Oh yeah.
I mean, those weren't franchises in the '90s; those were more solo shots. But he has multiple action films, and he was really great in those in that time. And I think just the movie coming out now, I just feel like the movie's 20 years too late.
Well,
I'll say this. I enjoyed the film for what it was. I went into this film not expecting
I think he was.
a lot.
I think he was more invested in his Rocky roles.
I think so too.
Because that was
because he wrote that.
The original Rocky from 1976 is, in my opinion, one of the greatest pictures of all time, one of the best sports movies of all time. And he was his baby, and it's the movie that he had done some movies prior to that, but that was the movie that put him on the map because he was so involved with that. And it wound up winning Best Picture of the Year, and I think deservedly so. There were some. Back in the '70s, there were always lots of contenders for Best Picture, but that was a worthy winner of Best Picture. It was a very popular film. And then when Rambo came out, he was still. He was very young. He was pretty young and buff. I remember seeing
First Blood.
First Blood when it came out in the movies in 1982, and it was actually really enjoyable. It was actually really enjoyable to see that movie for the first time on the big screen. And it's actually not a bad movie. It's actually
it's a good movie.
It's a good movie.
I think First Blood is a
it's
good
very
film.
enjoyable. I think what that movie has that none of the later films had was a really, I want to say, worthy adversary, someone with acting chops. Having Brian
Dennehy in there
as the
and like the villain,
so to speak. The cop that's out to get him. You really don't get that really strong. Whoever Rambo's against in any of the later films. You had Richard Crenna as Colonel Troutman, which was a little. He was a good actor, but his role, I think, was a little.
He was more like the mentor.
Yeah.
To kind of just control him and kind of keep him in check.
But his role was a little hammy. It was a little. He had like a lot of the corny one-liners that were popular back in the '80s.
Yeah.
But I think you had that movie had a lot going for it that a lot of the other movies didn't have. Also, incidentally, and probably nobody even realized at the time, there was a very young David Caruso in First Blood from CSI Miami fame. The redhead guy. He plays one of the younger cops, and he actually has a couple of good lines in the film, a couple of good scenes.
Yeah.
So it's actually a pretty good movie, and what they do is, I think the use of flashbacks in a lot of the Rambo films, I think, were done good, and I don't think they really did that much in this film. They didn't have a lot of flashbacks to
Well,
to his life, like
everything
in the the war and all that stuff.
Everything with those first couple of films really dealt with the Vietnam War
Yeah.
and his trauma that he had gone through. So that that first film to me, it's so good because I almost felt like for the time that it came out, he was a Vietnam vet that came home and just he was a wanderer. He was just wandering around from town to town.
Yeah, and this is I think that's the other thing, that the fact that the battlefield was a town,
A small town.
It wasn't, like I think in Rambo 2, it was like he was overseas and
they went to either, I don't know if it was like Korea or Cambodia. It was like one of those. And the same thing even with Rambo 3.
Rambo 3 was more like a battlefield.
Yeah.
And Rambo 4 was like I think that took place like in the jungle.
It was like something
so
like that.
very exotic locales for most of these movies. And I think this movie, even though it took place in Mexico, it was almost really like a battlefield in Mexico. Like it was
for that scene when he starts taking everybody out.
It was like it wasn't like.
And then he's in Arizona.
It wasn't just any town in Mexico. It was like bad parts of town.
And then like
really
where he lived,
characters.
I think was Arizona, right? That's where his ranch was.
Yeah.
I did like that the ranch that they used for this film. They're still basing a lot of this off of the finale from the fourth one.
Yeah, and you know what? I actually don't remember the fourth one that well because I saw it in the movies, but that was it. I saw it in the movies that one time and never saw it again.
I don't think you had to see it again.
And I was curious to see what the bridge was between the fourth one and the fifth one.
The only bridge was that he basically comes home. Like his fight ends overseas and decides to come back home.
But none of the other characters in this film were at the end.
No, the only thing you basically see, the end credits are rolling as he's walking back onto the ranch, and he's walking down there. But I'm pretty sure he had like his army bag, like he had like stuff that's almost like reminiscent from First Blood.
Yeah.
When he's walking around with the army, the green jacket, and then he's got the army bag that he's carrying around.
Yeah.
But I almost felt like in each Rambo film, like especially at least in the first one, like he tries to keep it as real as possible because I feel like none of these Rambos it's really a happy ending. Like there's always something that something bad typically happens.
Yeah.
And it's someone that he cares for, and especially in the first film, what happens is him, like he doesn't get the happy ending.
No.
Because he's the one that was just traveling around. He gets basically screwed over by the sheriff.
And at the end of the day, I think he's still getting arrested.
And he gets, obviously,
he was lucky not to get killed.
Well, exactly. I mean, he himself was lucky not to really kill anybody.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, at the end, because he goes crazy on the town itself, he ends up getting arrested at the very end.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was kind of like a sad, almost ending for him because he was the one. He's a sympathetic figure. Like he's the one that's getting picked on.
Yeah.
And he's just fighting back. Because that's all he knows. That's what he knows how to do.
And to be honest, I think when a lot of these films come out, I don't know that they know they're going to be a franchise. I
don't think when that first one came
they
out.
make these movies, and it's like it's all inclusive. Like that's the end of the story. And if no other movie came out after that, it wouldn't be like, wait a minute, what happened next? No, like that was a complete story arc, the first one. And then I just think it just resonated so much with the audiences, whether it was Stallone's popularity or just, it was a very popular film when it came out. It made a decent amount of money. I think then they sit there and say, okay, what are we going to do now? And they just okay, let's just stop doing it. And then lo and behold, here we are. How many years later?
Yeah, I mean,
it came out in 82. So what is that?
37 years later.
37 years later.
With the fourth sequel.
And I probably did see every single Rambo film in the theaters. I probably saw them all. The only one I may not have seen was the second one. For whatever reason. Maybe I was in college. I don't know.
This one, I just found it so interesting because of all that he was still able to do, and he's 70 years old.
Yeah, well,
he doesn't. Even in the movie, like he doesn't look like. There's no movie. There doesn't seem like movie magic in this.
Well, no, there's no.
Like
it's really kind of interesting because
he's grizzled.
I was gonna say grizzled and chiseled, and I think I don't know that he had to do much to look like that. I think that's what he looks like at this age. You know, he really looks like a guy that's like been through the ringer and been through hell and back.
Yeah.
You know, he looks all gnarly, I think, normally, and you know, he really, he almost looks like almost like a tree. You know, like come to life.
Though he does seem a little like, stiff's not the right word. He's not stiff on film, but his like body just seems stiff.
Yeah, his face is almost like block-like. You know, it's like which actually works for an older Rocky who's been in the ring for a long time. You know, getting the punches. You know, and also kind of works for a retired guy like Rambo, who went through hell in the service, and even went through hell. Since then, you know all the stuff that he went through. So it's like he's actually playing these really rough, beat up characters that have gone through. If you want to draw a parallel, if he's like the Ramones. These are the guys. These guys lived the life, and they look it. Rambo and Rocky Balboa have lived the life, and they look it. And luckily, Stallone looks like that normally. I don't know. He's not doing any pretty boy roles anymore.
No, but I don't think he has to either.
No, I think he can rest pretty well on the laurels.
Yeah, I think so too. Oh, and the fact that he also did the Expendables too, and the Expendables is more of a recent franchise, with all of these older action stars.
Oh yeah, but I wouldn't consider him to be like the star of that franchise. I think he's.
I would.
I thought it was like an ensemble.
It's an ensemble cast, but he's definitely
one. Well, he's one of the biggest stars.
Yeah, I think so.
So yeah,
So with this film here, it's a lot of, he's got a niece that ends up getting taken and abducted.
Well, before we even get to the niece, I want to talk about the family a little bit. Just so for the record, as far as I know, I think this movie is being pretty critically panned and trashed. Yeah. It's getting pretty bad scores, and I'll be honest with you, I think it's deservedly so. I don't think it's really that good of a movie. My main reason for going was just I'm a completist. I'm going to see the fifth Rambo film. I'm not going to see it twice. I'm going to see it, but I'm going to see it in the theater because I want to see it on the big screen.
I ultimately didn't think. I thought the panning was a little bit too harsh. I think
they actually might have been brutal. Yeah.
I thought to me it was a little. I thought the critical response to me was a little over the top, a little bit much. I don't know if it was just the violence that they really weren't into. The story itself is it's a basic revenge story.
Yeah, but I think the one thing I don't really like about the premises is that it's not obvious how anybody's related.
Well, that was probably my biggest gripe with the film, is that we don't know how is this Rambo's real niece, or is it just he's known her for so long? Is because it's a niece?
It's the daughter of the woman in the house's sister.
Right.
Like the woman in the house.
Yes.
Which they don't even. I'm assuming that's his girlfriend.
She's almost like a caretaker. No, that's not Rambo's girlfriend.
Then what is he doing there?
No, I got a feeling that she's just helping around the house. She's taking care of the house.
Okay, that's how I'm thinking there's a romantic involvement here. Otherwise, why are they living together?
No, I think Rambo takes care of the farm. It's like she takes care of the house. They don't hint at that, but they don't hint at that at all.
But they don't explain. They don't say it's not that. They totally leave it up for you to figure out, and they don't really give you enough information to truly figure it out.
No, they don't. The only thing you could possibly think of is that this girl was involved. This girl is the daughter of someone that Rambo was related to.
No. It's
because when he goes to meet the father,
the father is I don't know what happened to the mother, but I was pretty sure the mother is the sister of the woman.
She passed away from cancer or something.
Okay, but she's the sister of the woman living in the house.
Was that her sister or her daughter?
No, her sister.
Her sister. Okay.
The woman.
Well, obviously, it was a younger sister.
The woman who lives there talks about, her sister, and her niece, and he basically kind of adopted.
Well, that's what I'm wondering.
Well.
Is it like niece through like adoption type of deal, where
Yeah,
it's just because
I think they just lived together for so long.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's like they just don't explain it that well. Like it should have just been like a quick this is what the family.
Even just show me a family photo.
Yeah,
show me a portrait. Give me some bit of information.
Talk about the backstory a little bit to the point where it's not a question. Where like me and you are now even debating this, whether these two people were romantically involved, because it's not obvious that they were or weren't.
Yeah, it's definitely a little deceiving, but I don't know if maybe this was just a detail they didn't care about.
You know what they should though, because it puts everything in the proper context.
It gives everything a little bit better perspective.
It gives you clear delineation of the emotional connections of these characters and why they would care for each other that much, and why they're emotionally invested.
Well, obviously they keep talking about multiple times. It was mentioned that basically Rambo raised this girl.
Yeah.
Once the father was out of the picture. So you can kind of see where that's, it was, I know his niece, but it was almost more like a father-daughter type relationship.
Yeah. And the thing, they talk about the father about it, like he's like really like this bad guy and he's a jerk. And he is a bad guy.
Oh, yeah.
And he is a jerk.
Yes.
He just basically abandoned his family and,
And he told her that he didn't even want her.
Yeah, he's written her off and he doesn't care. And, that's mean. But, it's really odd though, because at the end of the day, he had nothing to do with what drove the storylines. It wasn't like associates of his that said, "Hey, looked at the door and said, who's that?"
I think it was indirectly.
It was completely indirect. He's just basically on the sidelines. He's just the reason why the niece went to Mexico.
Right.
But it was like I expected to be more of a connection between the action and what was happening. That which drove all the action. And the story with the family, he's just this guy at the door. She showed up, slams the door. Rambo shows up, he slams the door, and he goes back to his life, and that's the end. He has no idea what's going on, doesn't care. But at the end of the day, it's not his fault. It's like he had no hand whatsoever in what happened. So it was very incidental. She just was basically she just apparently never should have went to Mexico.
Never should have went.
Which is crazy.
But it was interesting because at one point, Rambo, I almost want to say Rocky. I almost want to say that. So Rambo goes up to basically confront these guys, saying that he wants his niece back. And he's up on this rooftop, and all these guys start following him.
Yep.
And he knows it too. He knows that he's getting attention.
Yep.
And all these guys come up and start surrounding him.
He's not scared, and he's not backing down.
And he's got his giant knife.
Yep.
And I'm looking at this scene, and I'm like, tell me he's going to take on this whole rooftop. Were you waiting for that?
I was almost like, how is this going to play out? How could he possibly win?
Right. And I think exactly how it played out.
Because he's got no artillery. He's got a hand-to-hand knife.
Right.
And obviously, all these guys are packing guns.
Yeah.
When you're surrounded by 50 guns, you can't win.
No. And the scene plays out exactly as it should have, where Rambo gets the crap beat out of him.
Yeah.
So to me, I'm like, all right, that to me makes sense.
Now going back a little bit, one of the things that I didn't really like in the story, and I found it to be a little bit unbelievable, is that basically the niece has this friend, or a former friend
that's in Mexico,
that lives in Mexico, and she reached out to her to see if she could find her father for her, track him down. Well, she did that.
Yep. And
she found the father. And then when the niece goes down to Mexico, she visits this girl Giselle, and she's like a real, I don't know.
She's not a nice girl.
She's not a nice girl. She's a little bit of a tramp. She's a little bit of a wheeler and dealer.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, what happens is that it's almost like she brings it to a club, and she gets eyed by like these guys that have like a prostitution ring that kidnap people,
Mm-hmm.
and
It's like a human
they almost make
trafficking ring.
and she actually walks away from the whole thing with the niece's bracelet, and it's almost like was that her plan all along?
Yeah,
Or
I think she's a spotter.
like you know,
I think she's like kind of like hired out by that group, and she basically just brings these people to the club. She brings these girls to the club, and then the guys take it from there.
and I would, you know, like and you can do that, but it's like I find it hard to believe that she would have done that to a friend of hers,
But it wasn't a friend.
even an ex-friend. Like she would, like, why would she even bother going through the trouble of tracking down the father, like doing her a favor, like it's like that's
Well,
what a friend would do.
They definitely don't explain it well enough, where they could have, you know, what it probably should have been like was while she was looking for her father, she got caught up with these people and was like, you know what, I know how to get out of this.
Yeah,
I'm going to bring my former friend
you
down
know, and
here.
she obviously knows the club, and she
Yeah.
obviously knows the people involved. So it's
Yes.
like she totally didn't look out for a friend at all, and in fact was maybe have even been like the person responsible for what happened.
Oh, 100%.
And to me, that just didn't play right. It just I'm like,
If Giselle's
like,
not involved with the
no one
picture.
would be that much of a dirtbag, like a real. That's horrible.
You know, the one thing that I will say about I said it, the Rocky films, about the Rambo films, is that they really show the ugliness of the world
Yeah,
and the people involved in it. Like they definitely, like, just going back to that First Blood, the first film, just how ugly some of those officers were, and just the negative thoughts towards some of the Vietnam vets at the time.
mm-hmm.
And that kind of just that rang true for that time period.
Yeah,
And it's, you know, and then, you know, now just the way that the world is, it's like every man for themselves. They go, you know, just look out for number one.
yeah.
And that's kind of like what these people were doing. That's what this girl was doing anyway. She was looking out for herself because, like you said, she got a little bling, and she got those people off her back.
Yeah, and you know, and she had like no qualms about it whatsoever.
No.
Like none whatsoever. It was just, you know, to me it was just a little crazy.
I found it very hard to believe that. So Rambo at one point gets to Giselle's, knocks on her door,
Yeah.
and basically is like,
Where is my daughter? Where's my niece?
if you don't show me where my niece is, he's like, I'm gonna mess you up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he has a code. Like he's still.
Well, you know
I
what?
can't see him I can't see him doing that to a female.
Well,
if it was a guy, that's one thing.
he doesn't know. When he first got there, he didn't know that she had any wrongdoing involved. But as soon as he saw
The bracelet.
that she had the bracelet,
Yeah.
that's when it was like, you know, screw you. Like you're now you're in the way, and you're one of the reasons why this is happening, and I'm not putting up with it. So I was actually kind of okay with that.
But I just don't believe that. Based on his character in the past, I just can't see him making those threats to a young girl like that.
Yeah, it's hard, but it's like,
I understand why
Yeah.
he was doing it, and I get the reality of the situation. But I just have a hard time buying that's what Rambo would do. Like if it was a guy,
Yeah.
I completely
well,
get it.
totally, yeah.
I get it, but I can't see him because I don't remember him ever doing anything like that to any female
No.
character.
Well, I mean, I don't know that any female character ever did wrong that much, what he considered to be that much wrong to him.
And maybe
I
that's
think
what
it
they
was
were
just-
going
I
for.
think it was just one of those things where it's like she has crossed the line and no longer
Yeah.
gets that, you know, pass that normally he would give. It's like, you know what? You screwed up, and now you're going to get treated just like everybody else.
Well, yeah, it's like, okay, now you're on an equal playing field with everyone else.
Yeah,
You're just one of those people in
you
my
just
way.
you know, you lost that card. You lost that get out of jail free card. Yeah, and yeah, so it was you know, one of the things that was I found really odd about this movie, and when we obviously saw that there was it had a large European production. And,
Yes.
and it was, one of the things at the very end was like, you know, visit Portugal. So I think it was like filmed in
I think so,
Portugal
yeah.
or Portuguese production.
The Mexican
And I'm sitting there going, like, it's like, yeah, visit Portugal, but don't visit Mexico under any circumstances. I was like, because like they make it sound like you're crazy, to go to Mexico. It was almost like, I don't want to say anti-Mexican, but it was like, Rambo's just going down there. He's like, it's horrible down there, and all this craziness is going on, and you should, tell his niece, don't go because it's, it's bad.
I think it was just the part that she was going to.
And then he gets there, and it's like, it's all this, like she's basically kidnapped into a prostitution ring within less than 24 hours.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think this part of this movie, like, reminded me a little bit of Taken.
Yes.
But to me, Taken was such a much better film, more flair and texture, and context, and I think Taken worked so much better on so many different levels, and this movie was really just more of a straightforward, almost like meatball type. Action,
well, to me, it was
film.
almost like it had the Rambo sequel signature to it.
And I think the movies have gotten progressively more violent.
Oh, big time. But I still believe Rocky, and I said it again, I still believe that the fourth Rambo film was by far the most violent.
Yeah, I remember the fourth Rambo film being ridiculously over the top.
The amount of dismemberment that occurred from explosions and from just like blade encounters, like the machete, like when he gets the machete at one point.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wow, like there are like people losing legs, losing their heads, losing their arms, like bodies blowing up from them walking across the water with the landmines in it.
Yeah, and it was very, I think, blatant, in your face.
Oh,
it was just brutal, and it wasn't like it wasn't like like a Sam Peckinpah, poetic type of violence, it was just.
And it was just like, and it was like multiple parts throughout that film. At least with The Last Blood.
This one was a little bit like that too, I thought.
But it wasn't until really the end, and I don't think nearly as bad.
Yeah, the end was just. It was really, really violent.
Do you know what was so funny? What I read was that the ending, when Rambo is basically setting up all the traps. Mm-hmm. So for those of you, again,
every Rambo, just like every Rocky movie, every Rambo movie, I think has like a montage.
Yeah. So what ends up happening is that, of course, so when they beat the crap out of Rambo, they grab his ID and they obviously hold on to it, so it has his address. So and Rambo knows this, so he goes to see, he finds his niece, and he basically he takes revenge on them.
Well, first
he gets once he gets the crap kicked out of him, there's a journalist that rescues him and basically pulls him up off the street and nurses him back to health over a couple of days.
Yeah. And
then from there, he goes back to the ranch.
And that's when he does the prep work.
Yeah. He starts doing all the prep work, he knows what he's about to do.
He knows that the final battle is going to be over here.
Yeah.
And not for nothing, like the amount of prep work that he had to do was enormous.
Well,
I think.
But I read a funny comparison, and it was hysterical.
What's that?
It's like the montage of watching Rambo set up his ranch was almost as similar as watching Kevin McAllister set up his house in Home Alone. and
that's
I'm
you know
reading
what? That's actually very, very.
And
very
I
true.
read that and I started laughing.
That's funny.
I would almost love to see and hear if someone could put together the Rambo montage of him setting up his barn and playing the Home Alone music throughout that montage. That would be great.
That would be great.
That would be really funny.
No, but he's got this enormous network of
the tunnels,
caverns, and tunnels and caves.
The tunnels underneath the farm.
Underneath this farm
is amazing.
I mean, I don't even know how he would have done that. I mean, it's actually you don't realize how big it is till the end of the movie.
Right.
In the beginning of the movie,
you see a little.
It almost looks like it's like one cave that goes somewhere and ends.
Yeah, it goes from like one side of the barn or one side of the yard to the other.
Yeah, but it's not. It's actually like it's actually crisscrossing.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty crazy.
And of course, he knows the whole layout. So like that's the trick. So he goes. Once he sets everything up, he ends up going over there.
He knows how to funnel everybody into...
Gets his niece, and his niece unfortunately doesn't make it. She's all drugged up.
Yeah. Now, okay, so going back to the tunnels for a second, before we talk about the niece. Yeah. Going back to the tunnels for a second, there's a scene, you know, before all the stuff hits the fan, where he allows the niece's friends...
Oh, to like have a party down there and see it, you know?
I was actually a little surprised at that because, like he's got stuff down there, like, you know, like weapons and stuff. Like it's, and they're not like, you know, it's not like guns in a closed gun case. It's like, you know, he's got like stuff on the wall. Like I'm actually, unless there was a way for him to cordon off a certain area, I don't know. But it just, to me, it seems a little odd that he would ever allow, like if it was my scenario, like I wouldn't do it because I think it would be dangerous. I'd be putting these kids at risk.
Yeah, because you're like someone might be an idiot and do something stupid. Yeah,
because kids are stupid, you know, and like you know, just you know, I wouldn't allow anybody in my library, and that's full of books. Forget about if it was full of knives and guns and you know, flamethrowers and grenades and stuff. You know he's got all sorts of crazy stuff down there. So now going back to the niece. So when he gets the niece, she winds up dying.
Yes.
In his car, and to me, that something about that just didn't feel right because ultimately she died because of the way she was treated by the prostitution ring. And at the end of the day, the prostitution ring doesn't want their girls to die, not until they've gotten as much mileage out of them as possible.
But they said that once Rambo went to go rescue her the first time around, the guys, once they kicked the crap out of them, the two brothers were like, now we're going to make an example out of her.
Oh, so they were just like, almost like gonna just use her.
They were just going to use it and kill her. Like they didn't care.
Oh, okay. So she wasn't like everybody else. Because at the end of the day, like, right. You know, they don't consider these girls people. No, they consider them property.
Yeah.
And, you know, or you know, an asset or an investment. And at the end of the day, you know, they want to get as much. They're making money off of these girls, and if that girl dies, I think that's the end of the money. They got to get another girl.
I think the normal circumstances, you're correct.
Yeah,
but I think because of what he did,
I didn't get that.
They made the decision. They told him, it says because you came here, now you're going to have to live with knowing that we're going to make her an example. And basically, they knew they were going to kill her.
They were basically going to whore her into the ground.
That's it. You know, just they kept shooting her up with drugs. And unfortunately, when Rambo goes and saves her, she, like John says, she doesn't make it on the way back as he's driving back into the States. But he knows at that point in time that they're coming after him because he destroyed one of their main houses and ends up killing one of the brothers in a brutal fashion.
Now, okay, so there's a scene right after the brothers who's alive that, you know, finds the dead brother. Yeah. So the dead brother is decapitated in the bed, you know, all mauled and everything. But then they cut to a scene where, you know, Rambo is driving along and he throws the head out the window. And it's like, okay, just, you know, think about that for a second. You know, he at some point he's in that house with that guy, and he kills him, and he cut off his head.
Yep.
And he walks out with it and gets into his car and he drives away.
Mm-hmm.
And he's driving around with a head in his car. And at some point, he's got to say, okay, when's a good time to throw this out the window? Like, he doesn't know when the guy found him. It's like, you know, like you can't time it and say, oh, you just found him? This is what, like he's just driving around. Like, just imagine, like, if you had that guy, you're in the car for an hour or two, you know, and you're like, you know, at some point you're like, all right, I still got the goddamn head in the car. You know, not for nothing, I'm sure it's bleeding all over wherever he's got. And at some point you say, all right, no, I'm going to toss it. It's almost like it's you know, it's crazy. Like you know, these scenes get edited together, but if you think about how they would play out in real life, sometimes in movies, like these things they're crazy.
Well, you think he would have just like walked out the front door and just tossed it,
right?
Like, but to me, that would make a lot more sense.
As opposed to taking you into the car, driving around, and at some point just saying, okay, what's a good spot? All right, boom.
We're on the highway. He was good.
And there's nobody around. Like, he doesn't know he's in a movie. You know what I'm saying? You know, he's not playing to an audience. He's by himself. You know.
Sometimes we probably feel that these are like little nitpicks and critiques, but Johnny Moe is right. Like, if you think about like how some of this would play out in real life, like would a guy keep the head in the car for that long? Like, no, he would have just gotten rid of it. He wouldn't have held on to it.
You know, at the end of the day, there's a little bit of suspension of disbelief.
Right.
And, you know, a movie that's supposed to be action is gonna strain credible logic to a certain degree.
Yeah.
So I like when I saw that scene happen, I didn't say, oh, that doesn't make any sense. I just thought it was funny.
Oh,
because
we both laughed at
I thought it was great, but like when you think about it, you're like, not for nothing. That
but it just
doesn't make any sense. But that's all right.
You know, then we get to the real final money scene, and like this is what I think everyone was really going to see. It was one final round with Rambo.
Yeah,
and
really
a closed space, and he gets and this is like a battalion.
Yeah, these guys,
like 20-something guys at least minimum.
More.
Do you think there was 30?
At least 30.
And basically
because a lot of guys died before they even got to the tunnels.
That's right. Like Rambo has this whole barn tricked out with traps ready to go,
and really like brutal traps,
like C4, fire. He's got fire set up.
He's got like these big planks with like giant like spikes coming out of them.
Yeah.
Like so like people can fall on them and just get impaled by like 7 or 8
and
spikes.
He's got axes that would swing. He's got spears. He's cut holes in walls so he could shove a spear through.
Was that even a spear? I almost thought they were like
metal.
I thought they were like pipes.
It was like a metal. It was like a sharpened
pipes. Yeah. Like really like brutal, sadistic like stuff.
Like a lot of the deaths in the tunnel scenes were very brutal, but I almost feel like that's part of the revenge. And this, like to me, like that was Rambo. Like Rambo's like this is like pure like Vietnam Rambo. I'm gonna set my traps up and wait for you to come to me.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to take you out.
Now, at one point, he starts playing music. He starts playing.
Oh, that was
the
great.
Doors. No one gets out of here. No one gets out of here alive.
Yeah.
No one here gets. Yeah, and so it's like I'm sitting. I'm like, all right, you know,
we get it.
Whatever. But it wasn't like he actually was playing that in the tunnels.
Yeah,
which I think is good.
It was a distraction.
Distraction. Also get into their heads a little bit. But it was funny though because like they showed up with so many people, like it was like it makes sense. It doesn't make sense. It makes sense. It goes because at the end of the day, like
he knows the tunnels better than anybody else.
He killed like a top guy, so they're out for revenge. It's not like they're not going back to get the girl. They're going back because he killed.
Yeah, he killed the brother.
And he didn't even I don't even think they care that he killed
a bunch of guys. Oh no.
They killed the brother. So they're out there, I don't know that they know that they're expecting World War III, but they came prepared for World War III with the amount of firepower that
they got. And these guys all have body armor on. Like these guys were all set to just like they thought they were just going to take him out and be done. And Rambo gives them.
I'm curious how they got like over the border, like that. You're talking about
they had the tunnels underneath. Don't you remember that? They had the tunnels that were underneath.
They were driving underneath?
I don't think they drove underneath. No, they walked in. They basically went under. They went into a building on one side of the border in Mexico. They go underground, and there's tunnels that go into the States, and they pop up into a warehouse. Okay. And that's where they had the vehicles.
I'll be honest with you. I think maybe I missed that.
You missed that part?
I think that was the time when I went to the bathroom.
Possibly.
Could be. But
I think at that point, like that's when they get all their weapons and everything, and they come in and they start loading up.
And apparently, like no cop is going to pull over this caravan or speed.
Oh my God! It's like there was like at least 5 or 6 of these like giant black SUVs.
10.
Yeah, like there was a lot.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Jam packed with guys.
But like it's definitely
and guns.
But that last like 10, 15 minutes. That was so well worth watching because it was amazing just to like watch him like take everybody out. But what was good about the one thing was that he gets hit a couple times from like stray shots.
Yeah,
he gets hit twice, and
which is reasonable.
Okay. To me, like if he would have went through that whole thing unscathed, like that to me would have been like huge.
Yeah, I mean, not for nothing. You can't plan something like that down to the precision where like everybody's going to get to where he wants them to be.
Right.
You know,
things are going to happen.
He doesn't know how many people are coming.
Right.
You know, it's just it's very chaotic. You know.
But I thought the end scene for me, as gruesome as it was, and it's a gruesome 10-15 minutes. I mean, guys are getting decapitated. They're getting axes like through the head. Body parts are getting cut off.
Oh yeah, people getting
stabbed,
shot, stabbed.
One guy's head got completely blown off. Right?
Yeah, I mean, burned. People getting burned.
People getting burned. So I mean, it's all over. But to me, and I wonder if that's where the critics really started to pan this film, because it was in your face for a good 10-15 minutes of the film at the end.
I mean, I think it was just, I think because it was a lot of over the top violence, not really that. I mean, it's more brutal and gory and more direct, and I think maybe because it didn't have enough, I think, emotional context.
Well, it's very different from First Blood. Like First Blood, a couple of people died, but the deaths weren't gruesome. The one cop that fell out of the helicopter.
There are actually very few deaths in First Blood, because he goes out of his way not to kill anybody.
Not to kill people. Right.
Yeah, there's hardly any deaths in First Blood.
And in the deaths that do occur, they're not that gruesome.
Yeah, but then the later ones in the 80s, it's typical 80s nonsense films with but then again, like the fourth 10 years ago.
The fourth one was really over the top.
Ridiculous.
I mean, listen, overall, I enjoyed for the film for what it was, because I knew what it was going into it.
Yeah.
I was not expecting some 4-star film.
No.
I was expecting a typical Rambo film, a lot of action and violence.
Yeah, I think I was expecting all that, but I think I was expecting a little bit more story.
I agree with you. The only thing I would have liked was a little bit more context of the film, of the characters and the relationships within the film. Because if you are talking about emotional ties, and that's what you want, the initial part of the film is to get us emotionally tied to the niece and her relationship with Rambo. Yeah. And I feel like you get that to a degree, but I feel like if you would have known how that relationship was cultivated, I think that to me would have
I felt like they didn't it would have benefited from flashbacks to that 10-year time period in between.
And you said that before, but there wasn't a lot of flashbacks. Like to me, no, that would have worked out
good.
Yeah.
I think.
And again, because you're talking about some of the previous films and the flashbacks that have occurred.
And the movie was very dark, so I think if those flashbacks, aside from providing emotional context, would have those would have been brighter spots in the film, and it would have lightened up, so you would have had this little bit of context. Because from beginning to end, I just thought the movie was very low lit and very dark.
A lot of it was at night.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff took place at night.
There was nothing to counterbalance that.
Right.
So then the movie ends with him being shot.
Yeah. So the big
at least twice, I think.
There's a scene at the end of the trailer where Rambo's all bloodied up, and he gets that 2-fisted hold above his head like this, and then the scene cuts. So in the film, you see what actually happens, and the other brother, he gets a hold of the other brother, and Rambo, of course, gets his old bow and arrow.
Well, of course, the other brother is the last person.
It's the last one. Rambo makes sure that he's the last one alive.
Right.
So then he basically gets him in his barn, and then just uses the bow and arrow as the guy's not expecting it, and just basically shoots him into the doors of the barn.
And impales him, basically.
Right, and then basically goes down there with his giant knife, and then he literally cuts out his heart.
Right. Now, you were saying that...
I don't think it would have been that easy.
I don't know that he would have been able to kind of punch his head through.
So remember, he basically makes an incision big enough where he could fit his hand in and literally just pull his heart out. And I'm like, with my medical background, I'm like, I don't know how easy that would have been to just do that. But again, suspension of disbelief.
But it looked good.
But it looked good. It looked good.
And so now the question is is he mortally wounded?
Right. Is he going to die?
Is he going to bleed out on his porch in his rocking chair?
Because all he does is he basically, like John says, he walks back to his front porch and literally just sits on the rocking chair and just rocks back and forth.
Yep.
And you see the sunset in the background, and then all of a sudden it goes to the credits, and you're like, Oh, so maybe he just dies on his porch.
Yeah.
And then about, I don't know, like a minute or two into the credits, all of a sudden you see they start doing flashbacks from the very first film.
Well, yeah, it's basically
like a montage.
A retrospective montage.
Yeah.
Pulling visuals from all of the previous
each
Rambo
film in order.
Just in case there's somebody out there that didn't realize that this was the fifth film in the franchise. But it was like, it was like a swan song.
Right.
It was like,
this is the final film.
It's almost like, like Sylvester Stallone sitting back there going, oh yeah, I remember
doing that scene.
So I mean it was a little corny, but it was nice too.
But when they get to
it was good to see all the movies again.
Yeah, and when they get to the final part, and when they get to this film, because of course the montage continues for this, at the very end, all of a sudden you see Rambo on a horse riding away from the house. Right? Remember that?
No, I don't remember that.
That's what I told you when we were talking when the credits were going. I was like, I don't think he's dead because I think that's him on the horse.
You think he rode off into the sunset?
It looks, and that's exactly what it made it look like. It made it look like he was riding on the horse still, and I'm pretty sure he was still wounded. Mm-hmm. But gets one of the horses.
One of the horses came back.
One of the horses came back, and he ended up riding away. I'm pretty sure that's what that made it look like.
Yeah, okay, so where's he going? Yeah, he's going off.
But again, he's the wanderer again. Yeah. He ends up where he started.
Yeah, that's a tough way to go out, man.
Yeah.
But I cannot imagine that there will be another Rambo.
No, it can't be.
It can't be.
Stallone is 73. This
was the last chance of the world. At the end of the day, you got studio executives going, how can we get the most out of our money? If we're a movie coming up, and it's like, you know what? Do a Rambo movie. It's not going to cost that much.
And I think that's what it was. And people will go and see it.
A lot of people are going to go see it because, people have that, devotion to franchises where like if this was just a regular movie with somebody else, a self-contained story, like with the exact same plot line, nobody would have seen it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hardly anybody would.
But like I said, I think Stallone's name carries some weight.
Yeah.
Not as much as it used to.
Stallone's name carries weight, and the First Blood Rambo franchise carries weight. So like that's that's a safe bet. People can make these sequels, and it's like they already know their audience is built in. It's just a matter of
I still believe
them
if this film was made 20-some years ago, I think it would have done a lot better because you would have seen a younger Stallone actually do probably a lot more.
Mm-hmm. Well, they made one 10 years ago.
Yeah, but even that one was late too.
Yeah.
Think about it. That movie was made 20-something years after Rambo
the
3.
Third one, right? They needed to do. Both movies needed to be 10 years earlier.
Yeah, I think if they would have done
Rambo 4 should have been
like late 1990s.
Rambo 5 should have been when Rambo 4 came out, and then I don't think they should have done anything after that. Like that would have been the end.
Well, this franchise is different too from Rocky because the best thing they could have done with Rocky was they transferred to Creed.
Yeah,
so young fighter.
Right,
so that
he became
sense.
a trainer.
And he becomes a trainer.
Right,
with Rambo,
you become old with age and your wisdom, and you become a trainer.
Right.
Rambo.
And you become the side character. You're not the main guy.
How stupid would it be if they did a movie where it's like some other young gun, and Rambo shows up as kind of like the Colonel Troutman character, you're gonna need body bags for this guy because I trained him. And he's like me, and that would have been that would have been just really ridiculous.
Well, no, I'm really glad they didn't go that route.
Yeah, me too.
But listen, overall, if you like action films and you like Stallone or Rambo, definitely go see the film.
Now, Stallone is in, technically, the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
He is, because he's in Guardians of the Galaxy.
He plays one of the characters in the Guardians of the Galaxy.
So he's in Volume 2.
Yeah, so I think there is a possibility we're going to see him again.
I think we probably will.
In Marvel Phase 2. And I don't think Stallone's career is over because you got people like look at someone like Clint Eastwood, who's
he's like 90.
He's 90 now, and he's making movies.
He just did The Mule.
Right, but you got to make slightly different type of movies than you're used to. Like, Clint Eastwood's not going to cut it as Dirty Harry, but he's going to cut it as the Mule. He's going to cut it like as, the character from Gran Torino.
Yeah.
So I think Stallone's just got to, I think he can have a movie career for at least the next 10 years if he
chooses
the right role.
Yeah.
And getting involved in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that's a no-brainer. Like, you're an actor or an actress, and somebody says, we want you to play something in the cinematic universe. You're crazy if you don't do it. I don't care who you are. Because, look at all the names that they've gotten.
Yeah.
All the people that are coming out.
I think it's, I thought that was a smart move by him.
Yeah.
Even if it's just a small cameo role, it doesn't matter. You just get
it. And when he was in the Guardians movie, we didn't even know he was going to be in there.
No.
Like, that was like a surprise.
That was a real shock.
That was a surprise. So, yeah. So
I think that's it.
It got trounced by Downton Abbey over the...
Yeah. That was a little bit of a shock. I knew Downton Abbey
it's a new generation of filmmakers, of filmgoers.
Yeah, but all right. I think that's it for us. I think we wrap this one up.
I think we're good.
I think we said everything we had to.
Trying to think what's coming up on the horizon.
Joker.
Well, Comic-Con is coming up.
Comic-Con's coming up. We'll be there.
Yep. So I think the next movie we'll probably review will probably be Joker, and we can tell everybody how our Comic-Con went.
Yep.
But I'm definitely looking forward to Joker.
Me too. The last trailer really got me excited.
This is one of those movies where basically I have a bunch of different people telling me that they have to go see it with me, so it's like I know we're gonna go see it opening weekend. But then I'm actually going to wind up seeing it with, probably have to bring my wife and another couple, and we're going to see it. I'm sure I might get dragged again. Depending how good it is, man, I could easily see it at least twice, I'm sure. It looks good.
So guys, I think with that, you'll probably see us in another week, and that's all she wrote. So guys, thanks so much for tuning in and watching.
Thank you very much. Episode 26.
In the books.
XXVI.
Yeah.
And on to the next one.
All right.
Have a good night, guys.
Have a great night.